You are listening to the continuation of the story. You can listen to the previous part via the link in the description below this video. Happy listening. Do you think we should discuss this? Sophia asked Jackson. Jackson sat looking at Sophia. He saw that she wanted to talk about it. When he read the letter, he didn't even think about her. He didn't think she was somehow involved in his internal struggle. These were his feelings about what to do. Honestly, Sophia, I didn't even think about you when I read the letter, Jackson answered honestly. Fine. And after you read it? Well, I didn't have a chance to think about it. I came home and saw you naked on my bed. It was a little distracting, he replied with a smile. Sophia smiled and laughed quietly. That was the point. Jackson reached out and took Sophia's hand. Listen, Sophia, I don't know what to do. I'm glad the doctors gave her a clean bill of health. I don't hate her. I forgave her. Do I think a simple dinner to celebrate is a good idea? Yes and no. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, Jackson, Sophia said, placing her other hand on top of his. I know what she did to you. I am pleased that you have always been honest with me about everything. But don't, she began, but he interrupted her. This has nothing to do with what is happening with you now or will happen, Sophia. Tara has no influence, say, or importance in my life. Sophia stood up and sat on Jackson's lap. She clasped her hands behind his neck and leaned down to kiss him softly but firmly on the lips. All I ask, Jackson, is that you just give me a say when you decide to get serious about something. The timer rang and Sophia rose from his lap. She grabbed some oven mitts and bent down to take dinner out of the oven. Jackson whistled and asked if she wanted another round. She placed the glass dish on the table and turned around, still smiling. Your second rounds last more than an hour, and I have to come to work walking normally tomorrow, she said, turning around and taking a plate out of the cabinet. Now you're going to eat this honey-glazed chicken with rice and broccoli, and I'm going to take a shower. Sophia walked over and placed the plate in front of Jackson. She leaned over and kissed him again. And don't even think about joining me. If I come to work tomorrow walking like a cowboy, they will never forgive me for this. Jackson slapped her on the butt as she walked by. Yes, dear, he answered. Jackson ate his portion in 5 minutes. One of the habits left over from serving in the Navy is eating quickly. He got up, washed the plate and fork, and soaked the glass dish. He then decided to check the apartment's security footage for the day, so he sat down on the sofa and opened his laptop. Jackson put the laptop on the coffee table and began looking through the notes. He saw himself getting ready and leaving the house, and then nothing happened until 12:30. On the recording, he saw Sasha enter. She connected her phone to the USB cable on the table and started dancing to the music. Jackson watched as she prepared the very same dish he ate. Sasha put everything in a glass dish, stuck a sticky note with instructions on the refrigerator door, turned off the phone, and went to the living room. There she sat down in the same place where he was now sitting and took out her laptop. Jackson turned the video up to normal speed to listen and see what she was doing. Damn it, one more test, Uo. Sasha was loudly indignant. He watched as she stood up, took one of his AB cream sodas, and began doing the test. Jackson sped up the recording. After completing the test, Sasha put her things away, then walked down the hallway to the bathroom. There was no camera there, but a minute later she came out with his clothes from yesterday. She threw everything except his sweatshirt into the washing machine. Jackson slowed the recording down to normal speed. Sasha leaned against the washing machine, covering her face with his t-shirt. What the hell is with women and my t-shirts? Jackson exclaimed out loud. You have a wonderful natural scent. Jackson jumped in surprise. Sophia, now fully dressed, stood next to him. Damn, I didn't even hear you leave. Sophia laughed and sat down next to him. You know, Jackson, you are, of course, a very observant person, but are you really that blind? What are you talking about? Jackson asked, closing the program on his laptop. Don't you notice how women always become closer to you when they talk to you? Jackson thought for a couple of seconds. No, I didn't notice. Why, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything at all. You constantly eat fruit in your office, use shea butter shower gel, and wear Creed Aventus perfume. You are literally a walking, talking, pheromone-emitting desire tree that drives women crazy. I just like the way it all smells. That's what I'm talking about, Sophia said, hugging his shoulder. You're sexy even when you're not trying. She kissed him on the lips. Should I stop? I don't want to distract anyone. Under no circumstances. Do you want all the women around you to be unhappy? Sophia laughed. Well, okay, I guess. We are discussing all this. I think there is not a single woman here, married or not, who would not want to be with you at least once. I don't want to hear it. La 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 la. Jackson put his fingers in his ears and laughed. Sophia smiled and lowered his hands. See you in the office tomorrow, she said, and left the apartment. Jackson sat for a few minutes, thinking about their conversation. He decided that she was right, there was no reason to change anything. He just needs to be careful and keep his distance from women who talk to him. Having come to this conclusion, he put the laptop in his briefcase and turned on the TV. He switched to the NHL channel and then returned to the kitchen to finish washing the dishes. He had just finished washing the dishes when the game started. Jackson grabbed a bottle of water and sat down to watch. It took him 10 minutes to regret it. Our team had already lost 3-0. The only bright spot was that Marchand hit the boards hard and was eliminated from the game. Jackson watched the rest of the first period and then went to bed. He just couldn't look at it anymore. Today was clearly not their day. The next morning, Jackson got up, completed his usual morning routine, and went to work an hour earlier than usual. The third shift manager reported that everything went smoothly. Everyone showed up for their shift, and there were no serious problems. Jackson walked around the employees to say hello and wish them a safe trip home after their shift. Then he went up to his office and got to work, testing systems, checking and answering emails, calling current and potential clients, everything that usually includes his workday. A little less than an hour before noon, the internal red telephone rang. "Damn," Jackson said out loud before picking up the phone. "What's happened?" he said into the phone. "Boss, this is Ashley from the reception." "Okay, Ashley, what's happened?" Your ex-wife is here and wants to see you." Jackson closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "If you want, I can send it back." "No, it's okay. Let her come. And also, Ashley." "Yes, sir. Please call me Jackson. You don't have to call me sir or boss. Here we can communicate by name. Okay, Jackson, I'll send it to you." Jackson hung up and took another deep breath. He reminded himself that he would need to talk to Ashley about how the red phone was only for emergencies. Leaning back in his chair, he closed his eyes and ran his hands over his face. He didn't expect Tara to show up again so soon. He sat in this position for maybe a minute when he suddenly heard screams. He couldn't make out what they were saying, so he stood up and opened the door. "You braked my best friend's heart, you fucking cheater." Joseph stood at the top of the stairs and shouted at Tara, who was halfway down, pressed against the wall in a state of shock. Jackson began to quickly approach Joseph. "Hey, hey, hey, Joe, Joe, Joe." Joseph stopped shouting and turned around, seeing that Jackson was almost there. "It's okay, brother. Everything is fine. I want to see her." Jackson got close enough to see tears on Joseph's face, which was red from screaming. He was pleased that he had a best friend who was so worried about him, but at the same time he understood that Joseph needed to calm down. "You are sure?" Joseph asked in surprise. Jackson put his arm around Joseph's shoulders and turned him towards his office. "Yes, I'm sure. It's okay, I promise." Jackson calmed him down and gently directed him towards the office. "Okay, but if anything happens, you call and I'll kick her out of here." Jackson smiled and hugged him. "Thanks for covering for me, Joe." They released their embrace, and Jackson watched as Joseph walked into his office and closed the door behind him. When he turned around, he saw Sophia helping Tara up the stairs. Jackson walked up to the top landing to help, but Sophia glanced at him. "I didn't know he was already here," Jackson defended himself. "Help her get to your office, and I'll go and give Joseph his little carrot," Sophia grumbled quietly so that only Jackson and Tara could hear. Jackson took Tara's hand and she looked at him. Sorry, Jackson. I didn't want to cause trouble. It's okay, you're not to blame for anything, Tara. They watched as Sophia walked purposefully towards Joseph's office. Show him, Sophia. A voice came from below. Everyone started laughing, including Jackson and Tara. Will she really do this? Tara asked, still chuckling. She definitely has the courage, Jackson replied. They had almost reached Jackson's office door when they heard another burst of laughter. They turned around and saw Sophia dragging Joseph by the ear, and he was limping next to him. Jackson moaned softly and laughed lightly. Let him go, Sophia. Everyone inside now, Sophia ordered in a tone that did not tolerate objections. Jackson smiled at Sophia, and she released Joseph. He straightened up and entered the office. Sophia followed him in, followed by Tara. Jackson turned around and walked towards the railing. Okay, everyone get back to work. We love you, boss, shouted the same voice from below. Jackson smiled and replied, Shut up, Brian, and get to work, which caused a new burst of laughter among the employees. Jackson entered the office and closed the door. Sophia was about to say something, but he interrupted her. Sit down and shut up, Sophia, or you're fired. She immediately sat down between Tara and Joseph. Tara sat closer to his desk, and Joseph sat on the other side of the sofa, from which he could see the entire office. You two have until the end of the day to apologize to everyone for your unprofessional behavior, Jackson said, pointing at Joseph and Sophia. You're right, brother. I let my emotions take over. Sorry, Jackson, Joseph replied. Apology accepted. I understand that you protected me, and I love you for it. But you are a co-owner of this company. We cannot afford such antics, even if they are dictated by good intentions. You're right, I know. Sophia, you can't attack people, especially one of your bosses. It was pretty hot the way she treated me, Joseph joked, rubbing his ear. I can tear it off right here in the office. Sofia Valencia Hernandez, Jackson said with emphasis. The room fell silent. All three stared at him. Joseph had a hard time holding back his laughter when he heard Sophia called by her full name. Sophia bit her bottom lip as she looked at him. Tara just sat there with a surprised expression on her face. Apologized to Joseph now. Sorry, Joseph. Joe apologized to Tara. Joseph cleared his throat. Tara, forgive me for yelling at you in front of everyone. It was the wrong place and time. Thank you, Joseph, Tara replied. Now, Joe, go ahead and apologize to everyone on the staff. Make sure they understand it won't happen again and try to keep morale high. Joseph stood up and smiled at Jackson. See, I told you that you're in charge here, he said with a grin and left the office, closing the door behind him. Jackson turned around and looked at Sophia and Tara, who were sitting and quietly chuckling. What made you laugh so much? He asked, pulling the chair closer. Nothing, Jackson, just girl talk, Sophia replied. This is no place for girl talk. You're lucky I didn't suspend you, Sophia. There was a knock on the door, distracting everyone's attention. Come in, Jackson said. Brian walked into the office carrying a brown paper bag, folded and rolled up at the top. He walked up to Tara and handed her the package. You dropped it and forgot to pick it up. Oh my God, I completely forgot about that. Thank you, Tara replied. Brian looked at her for a couple of seconds, then smiled and left. Tara took food out of the bag. I decided that instead of dinner, we would have lunch to celebrate. It's a lighter environment, and I didn't want to send the wrong signal. Let me guess. Turkey on wheat bread, a slice of Colby Jack cheese on each side, lettuce in the middle, and ketchup spread all over the bread? Asked Sophia. Surprise appeared on Tara's face, and she began to look between Sophia and Jackson. Yes, but who are you? Excuse me. Sophia Hernandez. Executive accountant, she answered, holding out her hand. I don't remember seeing you before. What happened to Denise? Tara asked, shaking Sophia's hand. She's now retired, enjoying cocktails on the beach with her family in Cape Coral. And I came here after your marriage to Jackson, Sophia answered with a smile. Tara and Sophia started looking at each other. Jackson realized they were sizing each other up. Lady, 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 Jackson tried to intervene. But there was no reaction. Both continued to smile at each other, as if competing to see who could blink first. Finally, Jackson couldn't stand it anymore and kicked the coffee table. Both women jumped in surprise. "Sophia, you have a job and an apology to make," he said firmly. "Yes, Jackson, I'll take care of it. I have a big date tonight, so I'll try to get everything done quickly so I can get ready," she replied, standing up and winking at him. "It was nice meeting you, Tara. I hope everything works out for you." Jackson and Tara watched as Sophia left the office and closed the door behind her. For a few seconds, they just looked at each other without saying anything. "Can I have my sandwich?" Jackson finally asked, breaking the silence. "Of course," Tara replied, tossing it to him. Jackson began to unwrap the sandwich when he noticed Tara had pulled out 2 small bottles of champagne. He was surprised they didn't break when she dropped the bag. Tara opened both bottles, then handed one to him. Jackson raised him. "Tara, for the sake of pure health and a long life full of new happy memories," he said, leaning towards her. Tara leaned over too, and they clinked bottles. They both took a long sip and sat back down. They ate while discussing her health, work, and family. The conversation was easy and pleasant. Jackson felt that lunch was much better than the dinner idea. When he finished his sandwich and sat crunching on chips, Tara suddenly said, "I'm selling the house." "Why?" "This house was made especially for you, except maybe for the gym. This house was our home. It was supposed to be a place where we would spend our lives together. Now it reminds me that we are no more. Understand, I already have several interested buyers. This is a good house with a large plot. Not surprisingly, interest is high. I'm sure you'll get a great price for it. I'm telling you because I want to know if you want to buy it and go back there." Jackson finished his chips, put his foot on the table, and leaned forward. "Tara, I gave you this house. I didn't want to have anything to do with him then, and I don't want to now." Jackson noticed the hint of pain on Tara's face and leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I didn't say that to hurt you, Tara. It's just that this house is full of bad memories for both of us. From my point of view, it can be burned to the ground and barbecued in the ruins." Tara laughed and smiled. "What about your date with Sophia?" "I don't have a date with Sophia," Jackson replied. "She's a very beautiful young woman," Tara remarked, looking at him carefully. "And very smart. She graduated from New York University with honors. She has her sights set on you, Jackson," Tara said with a smile. "Looks like many have." "Yes, well, so you date a lot?" she asked. "No, but you just said that many people have plans for you. Does this mean that you are dating?" "That's not the same," Jackson replied, taking a sip of his favorite cream soda. "So you're not dating anyone?" Tara asked in a casual tone. "No. I haven't been on a date before our marriage or since our divorce," Jackson replied, taking another sip. "That's how it is. Honestly, this surprises me a little, Jackson." "Why?" "Jackson, I know you don't like it when I say this, but you are a smart and attractive man. Don't let my betrayal turn you into a recluse." "I'm not a recluse, Tara. I go to work, meet with clients, and have lunches with potential partners. As for your betrayal, I forgave you a long time ago. I did everything I could to help you. I tried every way, but you rejected my help. I accepted that I had done my best, and it still wasn't enough. That's life. I'm glad you're feeling better, and I hope you continue to take your medications and understand that it's okay to seek help." Tara smiled at him. She remembered the last time she saw him on the wedding anniversary of her sister and husband. He had been polite then, but kept a low profile as if he was afraid of losing control. She leaned back on the sofa and crossed her legs. "It was an incredible gift you gave Pat and Bill. She still can't stop talking about him." Jackson smiled, remembering the bottle of bourbon he brought Bill a week later. The cruise revitalized their married life, and Bill was very grateful for that. "That smile says you know how they are doing," Tara said with a slight laugh. "Yes, I know," Jackson admitted, standing up. He went to his desk and took out that same bottle of bourbon and 2 glasses. Returning to the sofa, he sat down and poured a small amount for each of them. This is the same bourbon that Bill bought me as a thank you. He handed one of the glasses to Tara. She smiled as she accepted the glass. You know, bourbon is not my drink, but for his favorite, I can make an exception. To your health, Tara said, raising her glass. Jackson raised him, and they both drank in one gulp. Jackson closed his eyes and exhaled, feeling the pleasant burn from the alcohol. He opened his eyes and saw Tara writhing from the strength of the drink, her eyes squeezed shut and her tongue hanging out. This made him laugh. "What's so funny?" she asked, opening her eyes. "Your face after drinking alcohol. I've already forgotten what it looks like. How can you drink this and not wince? This is a bottle for $200. You get used to it and even begin to enjoy it. $200? Why pay that kind of money to burn your throat?" she asked, shuddering. Jackson reached for her glass. "I think it's a good time to finish this special bottle." He poured the remaining bourbon equally between their glasses and handed her back. "Are you trying to get me drunk, young man?" Tara asked with a grin and a British accent. "What are you saying, madam?" "I'm a gentleman, and I would never dare." Jackson played along with her. "Okay then. For us." She clinked glasses with it and drank a small sip, but could not finish it. "You're crazy if you drink this," she said, making a face. Jackson laughed, drank the rest of it, and put both glasses on the table. They continued discussing his work. Jackson talked about how he's been flying more often due to the company's expansion across the country and shared how great their employees are. Tara was shocked when Jackson mentioned what he did with the money he received from her former company as a result of the lawsuit. "My God, Jackson, this is incredible. A $20,000 gift is much better than a 2% salary increase over 3 years. Yes, but I appreciate the act itself and the meaning of what they did. I didn't even know you sued them. They didn't tell me anything." "They couldn't. This was part of the terms of the settlement. You didn't have to suffer because of it, and you couldn't bear any consequences for their actions for 10 years. Otherwise, the case will be reopened, and I will make it public." "That's very nice of you," Tara said, smiling. "I hated what you did. I hated what you had become. But I still have good memories of how you used to be before all this. I'm happy to say that I'm on my way to finding my old self," Tara replied. "I hope you do, Tara. I really hope so." They looked at each other for a few seconds until Tara broke the silence. "Well, I have to go. Thanks for lunch, Tara. In the end, it turned out to be a pleasant pastime. Maybe you can come into the house later to look at it one last time. What if you missed something before selling?" she suggested, standing up. Jackson looked at her, a little lost in thought as she stood there, waiting for his answer with a small smile. "Okay, I'll come in for a little while, but I'm almost sure that I already took everything I wanted." "Then it's agreed," Tara said, heading towards the door. Jackson followed her. She stopped at the door and turned around. "See you at the house tonight," she said, and kissed him. Jackson's muscle memory kicked in automatically, and he kissed her back without even realizing it. "Yes, see you," he said, opening the door. He watched her walk down the hallway and down the stairs before he closed the door. Then he returned to his desk, turned on the computer, and began entering the password. A minute later, Joseph entered the office and closed the door behind him. "What else was that, brother?" he asked. "What are you talking about?" "You kissed Tara." "No, I didn't kiss you." "Yes, I kissed you." Scroll through the entry. Jackson logged in and pulled up the camera footage in his office. It only took a minute to watch to confirm. Joseph was right. It was an accident. "It doesn't mean anything," Jackson said, waving it off. "I guarantee it's not like that for her," Joseph countered. At that moment, Sophia entered the office. She just came out, all beaming with happiness. "What happened here?" "Nothing," Jackson replied. "He kissed Tara," Joseph told Sophia. "I didn't kiss her. She kissed me. It's a big difference." Jackson noticed how mixed emotions flashed across Sophia's face: resentment, sadness, and a slight tinge of anger. Do you really think this was a good idea? I thought it was all over between you. Jackson looked at them both with slight irritation and a hint of anger in his voice. He got up from the table, walked around it, and sat down on the edge. Listen, she kissed me. It doesn't mean anything. I divorced her a year ago, period. There's no point in being angry, Sophia remarked. Joseph came and sat down next to him. Listen, brother, I understand that sometimes moments of the old Tara flash. The Tara you fell in love with, the Tara I loved. I'm just worried about you. Thank you, Jackson answered briefly. She wants you back, Sophia said. She sells the house and moves on. This is the best for both of us. Why is this a problem for you, Sophia? Joseph asked with a grin. Jackson noticed Sophia's eyes narrow as she looked at Joseph. Why do you even care? These walls have eyes and ears, you know. I see and hear everything, he said, still smiling. You can't even process what you're hearing with that brick head between your ears. Oh my God, Juanita, he is so perfect and amazing. He fills my heart and soul and doesn't even start talking about sex again. If only I could bring him home, but I would definitely be disowned if I did a white man for the family, Joseph said in a thin, girlish voice. Sophia's eyes opened wide and her hands instantly flew to her mouth. She quickly looked back and forth between Joseph and Jackson until her eyes landed on Jackson and tears began to fall. Jackson stood up, walked over to Sophia, hugged her, and pulled her close. She allowed herself to melt into his embrace. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Everything is fine. I know how important family is to you and to your culture. Jackson continued to hold her as Joseph walked past them and out the door. A few minutes later, Jackson led Sophia to the couch and sat her down. I'll be back in a minute, okay? Said Jackson. He stood up and headed to Joseph's office. Opening the door, he saw Joseph sitting at the computer. What the hell was that, Joe? Jackson asked. Shut up and get over here, Jackson. Jackson walked over to the desk and looked at the monitor. On the screen were Tara, Bill, Patricia, and Margaret. They were sitting at a table in the park, eating ice cream. This park was just a few blocks away. What the hell is this, Joe? I sent Tara under surveillance when she left here. This video and... Jackson heard their conversation. In the park. He said he'd come by, Tara said. Well, it's already a start, Tara, Patricia replied. Don't get your hopes up too high, okay? Jackson is no longer the same person he was when he was married, Bill added. But I have to do something. At least try. He's probably sleeping with Sophia from his office. It's none of your business or something you need to worry about, Margaret said, pointing at Tara with her spoon. What do you mean, it's none of my business? You should have seen this woman, Aunt Margaret. She is incredibly beautiful, like a real Disney princess, and very smart. Graduated from LIU with honors. If I remember correctly, you graduated with even more honors and an MBA from Boston University. You are a beautiful young woman, and you have something much more important than her, dear, Margaret said. Oh yeah, and what is this? History, dear. You and he have a common history. When I cheated on Alan, it was our story that helped us return to each other and live the rest of our lives in a happy marriage. She's right. You had years of happy memories and a wonderful history together. Jackson is not one of those men who just forgets everything, Patricia supported. That may be true, but his last memories are of the terrible things I did to him and to us. Look, you said he at least had sex with her with this Sophia, right? Asked Bill. Bill, Patricia exclaimed. Yes, I saw it in her eyes when we made eye contact. Okay, whatever, that's good, Tara, Bill replied. In Joseph's office, Jackson and Joseph couldn't help but laugh when they heard how Tara hit Brian. Damn it, I wish I could see that, Jackson laughed. And what is she carrying in her bag? Joseph laughed. She carries around a couple of cans of pineapple and a small can of chicken, plus a plastic spoon. Always chewing on something, Jackson replied. In the park. Don't mention Brian unless he starts talking about him. Plus, The police are still investigating what happened to him. Jackson might think you're trying to set him up, Patricia said. Jackson has nothing to do with it. He has an ironclad alibi, witnesses, videos, audio recordings, Tara answered. What about his crazy partner? This guy always creeped me out, Patricia asked. In Joseph's office. Hey, what the hell is this? Joseph exclaimed loudly, while Jackson literally burst out laughing. In the park. Joseph definitely knows how to do it. He was a corpsman in the Navy. But I doubt he would do it. He loves his lifestyle too much. Money, invitations to parties, being the center of attention, chasing women. Has he ever chased you? Asked Margaret. Oh, God forbid. The only thing he ever did was hit on me at a party years ago, before Jackson and I started dating. Does Jackson know about this? Asked Bill. In Joseph's office. Jackson grabbed Joseph's arm and applied a headlock, pinning him to the table. Are you fucking serious, brother? Jackson blurted out. You weren't even together then, and you heard it yourself. Nothing has happened since then. I never even thought about her that way again after you two started dating. I swear on my mother's life, Joseph said quickly. Jackson knew that Joseph only swore like that when he was telling the truth. Otherwise, his mother most likely would have shot him herself. Jackson let him go. Damn it, I totally forgot how fast you are at this, Joseph said, rubbing his wrist. In the park. If he knows, he never mentioned it to me. And anyway, nothing happened, Tara answered. So he's a womanizer. I'm surprised he hasn't tried to pick you up yet, Bill said. Joseph would never do anything to hurt Jackson. Besides, women say he has problems with stamina, Tara replied with a smile. The women laughed, looking at each other. Men share rumors too, so I'd shut up if I were you, Bill said. Fair enough, Patricia replied, blushing slightly. Anyway, back to the main issue, Margaret said. Did you find any of his things in the house? Asked Bill. Yes, I found it. The bottle of whiskey his grandfather gave him as a wedding gift. It was in the cabinet above the refrigerator. In Joseph's office. Jackson sat down on the edge of Joseph's desk. He noticed that Jackson's mood had dropped sharply. He knew he remembered something painful. He was a wonderful man, Jackson. We all miss him, Joseph said, patting his friend on the knee. I completely forgot about that bottle after the honeymoon, Jackson replied. What's going on here? Sophia's voice rang out. Joseph quickly turned off the computer screen. Both men looked up to see her halfway to the table. In the park. This is perfect. He loved his grandfather very much. You can use this to reach him, Patricia said. Tara, Bill, and Margaret looked at her in surprise. What? Asked Patricia. It's good that you're beautiful, Margaret said with a smile. Hey, Patricia said indignantly, while Bill and Tara chuckled quietly. Honey, if you want to start rebuilding some kind of relationship with him, Bill's idea is the best, Margaret added. Yes, it is. Give him this bottle and offer to drink a glass together. Just don't pour yourself as much as him. You don't know how to handle alcohol at all, said Bill. Oh, God forbid, said Patricia. Pour yourself a very small amount, literally onto your finger, add ice and sip. Just talk to him. After he sees the bottle, the conversation naturally turns to his grandfather. Remember, share stories. When this topic is exhausted, start remembering the happy moments you spent together in the house, Margaret advised. Damn, look at the time, Bill exclaimed loudly. We need to get home and keep packing. Everyone agreed. They stood up, threw the empty ice cream cups into the trash can, and headed out. In Joseph's office. What were you doing here? Asked Sophia. We discussed the flight schedule. Jackson won't be able to fly to tomorrow's meeting, so he'll fly out next Thursday, Joseph quickly responded. Sophia looked at both of them carefully for a few seconds. Okay, Jackson, can I talk to you alone? Certainly. That means we'll have to turn off the cameras in the office, so Mr. Nelly the Nose can't watch or listen, Sophia said, pointing at Joseph. I'm not Nose Nelly, I'm just cautious about protecting the company, Joseph replied. Yes, of course, Jackson agreed. Jackson turned Joseph's computer screen around and picked up the keyboard. He opened the office system settings and entered his personal password to disable the cameras. Joseph didn't even know he had this opportunity. When Jackson returned everything to its place, Joseph's phone rang. "Damn, look at the time," Joseph said, standing up. "Yes, it's time for your weekly peacock ride for widows at the country club," Jackson remarked. "Say what you want, but at least they know how to size up a man," Joseph said, putting on his jacket. Sophia rolled her eyes. "Jackson, come to my office when you're done with him," she said and left. They both looked at Sophia. Jackson and Joseph looked at each other. Jackson, as always, found Joseph easy to read, like an open book. Joseph pointed his finger at Jackson and opened his mouth to say something, but Jackson interrupted him. "We signed liability waivers months ago. The company's lawyers have long ago recorded everything." Joseph crossed his arms and tried to speak again, but Jackson interrupted him again. "She won't. She loves this job, loves this city and the people here. Well, except for one thing," he said with a smile. Joseph smiled too. He put on his sports jacket and stood still for a moment, looking at Jackson. His face became a little sad. He then walked towards Jackson. "I know you're sorry, and yes, you should have told me. We'll settle this in the ring tomorrow morning." "Oh, come on, that was over 10 years ago. You're leaving for Los Angeles on Saturday night and won't be back until Wednesday. You will have time to recover. Moreover, these are our long-time clients. They know how we work," Jackson said with a smile. They hugged and left Joseph's office. Jackson headed to his office, while Joseph walked down the stairs to get ready for his evening. In Jackson's office. When Jackson opened the door to his office, he did not see Sophia on the couch, or on the chair, or at his desk. He thought that perhaps she had gone to the toilet and closed the door. Hearing the door slam shut, he turned around and saw Sophia for a moment before she rushed towards him and started kissing him. He was stunned, but kissed back. They had sex. Sophia loved that Jackson hadn't changed much since she'd known him. During this time, he earned more than $5 million on the stock market, taught summer business courses at 2 universities, and remained the same person. She was struck by his respect for people, from students to hotel and restaurant staff. Jackson raised her hand to his lips and kissed it. Then he spoke, but saw tears on her face and fell silent. "Sophia, was all he managed to say before he was interrupted. "I also wish that everything was different." "I'm so sorry, Jackson," Sophia said. She stood on her tiptoes, kissed him one last time, and left before he could respond. Sheila and Beverly were in the conference room, preparing it for the change of duty meeting. It was here that the first and second shift workers met to discuss problems that arose during the day. This is where all the gossip spread, and both women knew that the main event discussed would be Sophia dragging Joseph by the ear into Jackson's office. On the large table in the recreation room, there were already delicious donuts with golden glaze, scattered with bright powdered sugar, and muffins with a golden brown crust, alluring with the aroma of vanilla and chocolate. Bright paper napkins decorated with the company logo were laid out in neat piles nearby, and nearby there were 3 coffee makers that, with a quiet hum, filled the air with a rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. They worked at full capacity so that none of the employees was left without a dose of cheerfulness and warmth. Sheila and Beverly, energetic and smiling, were among the first employees Jackson and his business partner Joseph hired when starting the company, American Network Securities Systems. At that time, the company was still small, but already had a clear mission and great ambitions. Sheila and Beverly were not just employees, they became an important part of the team that grew along with the company. They loved their work, and this was evident in every detail, from their willingness to help colleagues to the pride in their contribution to the common cause. The company's team was truly diverse. Among the employees, there were those who had started families a long time ago, some were just starting their journey, and some enjoyed the freedom of solitude. Despite all the differences, the atmosphere in the company was so warm and friendly that everything went well together. People felt like they were part of one big family. This became possible thanks to the corporate culture that Jackson built from the early days of the company. Employees loved working for Jackson, not only because of his professionalism, but also because of his personal touch. He was a leader who not only knew how to run a business, but also how to connect with people. Jackson believed it was important to remember not only the names of his employees, but also the details of their personal lives, where their wives or husbands worked, what schools their children went to, what hobbies and dreams they had. This genuine concern for people made him a respected leader. Even in those rare moments when disagreements arose between employees, Jackson always found a way to resolve conflicts. His approach was based on understanding and fairness, which helped maintain an atmosphere of harmony and productivity. Jackson played a key role in the day-to-day running of the company. His tasks were not limited to the administrative part. He himself actively participated in the development, support, and updating of software for security systems. He constantly looked for ways to improve the functionality of the company's products, keeping up with the latest industry trends and innovating, while American network security systems remained at the forefront of technology. This balance, a focus on people, and a commitment to technological excellence made the company unique, and Jackson a true leader, valued and respected by all who had the honor of working with him. Everyone tolerated Joseph. He was accepted as an inevitable addition to Jackson, like an annoying cousin at a family gathering. Joseph brought in big clients. He could convince an Eskimo to buy ice. However, he did not understand anything about security systems and did not want to understand. He was interested in money, parties, airplanes, and women. He was completely absorbed in his image. That doesn't mean he didn't have his bright moments. When Sheila dislocated her shoulder falling down the stairs, he set it back with ease. When a janitor cut his hand, Joseph stitched himself up. Sheila and Beverly were housewives when they first met Jackson and Joseph. They were selling pies, cakes, muffins, brownies, and other sweets at a school fundraiser when they came across them. Joseph was talking with an influential wealthy businessman. He walked past their table, grabbed a glass of punch, and continued talking without even stopping to pay. Jackson, on the contrary, walked up, took a pen lying on the table, and threw it at the back of Joseph's head. Sheila and Beverly laughed as Joseph returned to their table. He muttered an apology, took the muffin, threw in a 20, and walked away again, still talking. Jackson apologized for his friend's rudeness, asked for a fork and a chair, and then sat down with them. He spent 10 minutes enjoying their baking, discussing recipes, their lives, hopes, and dreams. They soon noticed Joseph hurriedly walking back, calling for Jackson. The businessmen wanted to hear about the security system they could offer, but Jackson said the words that made Sheila and Beverly fall in love with him. "I don't care if it costs us $1 million. Until you sincerely apologize to these wonderful ladies, I will not budge." Joseph begged Jackson to come with him, but he remained in his place until Joseph apologized. After that, Jackson paid for everything he ate, praised their products, and left. A few minutes later, the woman noticed his business card on the table. On the back it was written, "Call me please." The next day, Sheila and Beverly called him on speakerphone together. He was glad they called and suggested they meet at his home to discuss the part-time job offer. That same night, Sheila and Beverly, along with their families, arrived at Jackson's house. There they met Tara. They immediately liked her. She was a polite, hospitable hostess who got along well with children. Not only Sheila and Beverly liked it, but also their husbands. Tara was beautiful, had a well-paying job, and, best of all, knew Jackson's work. But what touched them most was that they felt the love between Jackson and Tara. They held hands, exchanged glances, smiled, and sometimes finished each other's sentences. After dinner, Jackson took Sheila and Beverly's husbands away to show them his gym and garage. Meanwhile, the women helped Tara clean the kitchen. When the men returned, they saw Sheila, Beverly, and Tara sitting at the table, laughing like old friends. Tara stood up to pour the men something to drink, and Jackson announced, "It's time to get down to business." "Okay, what's the job?" Sheila asked. Jackson explained with inspiration that their baked goods had impressed him so much that he couldn't just leave without proposing to them. He sincerely believed that their talent deserved more than working in the kitchen for a small circle of acquaintances. Sitting in front of them, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, he announced that he wanted to hire them to bake for his office. The serious but friendly tone of his voice emphasized that this was not just an impulse, but a carefully considered decision. Jackson added that he is ready to go even further. In exchange for their agreement, he offered to finance the opening of their own pastry shop. "You have a talent that cannot be hidden," he said, leaning forward. "Your pies, cookies, and cakes deserve to be known throughout the city and maybe even beyond." The women, amazed at such an unexpected turn of events, looked at each other. Their faces expressed a mixture of surprise, joy, and slight confusion. Then they turned to their husbands, who, sitting next to them, also looked stunned. It seemed that time stood still at the moment of their common silent discussion. Finally, their gazes returned to Jackson, who was patiently waiting for their reaction, smiling discreetly. At that moment, their attention was diverted by movement at the door. Tara, Jackson's personal assistant, returned with a black leather briefcase in her hands. She walked up to the boss and placed the case in front of him. Jackson calmly opened it, showing the crowd that his words were backed up by real actions. He produced a neatly folded check, signed and ready to hand over. Seriously and solemnly, he handed the check to Tara, who approached the women with confidence, as if it were the key to a new chapter in their lives. Tara placed the check on the table in front of them, and the women looked at the numbers with bated breath. It had the amount of $250,000 on it. There was a stunning silence in the room. It was more than they could have imagined, more than they ever thought possible for starting their own business. Their hearts beat faster and tears of joy welled up in their eyes. Jackson, watching their reactions, smiled softly, realizing that he had just given them a chance that could change their fate. Beverly lost consciousness, but her husband managed to catch her. Sheila froze, staring at the check. Her husband started asking questions, trying to figure out what was wrong. Jackson insisted there were no conditions. He understood their doubts. When Beverly came to, she took the check with one hand and squeezed her husband's hand with the other. "Sheila, Beverly," Jackson said. They raised their eyes and looked at him. "Without faith, it is impossible to please God, because everyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him," he said, addressing them directly. Sheila and Beverly screamed with joy and said at the same time, "We agree." From that day, their friendship began. Sheila and Beverly became Jackson's closest confidants besides Tara, and he became one for them. They valued his wisdom, which transcended his age, and his honesty. When Sheila and Beverly were going through their divorces, Jackson and Tara supported them. The women never forgot how much Jackson did for them without even knowing them. When Tara cheated on Jackson, it was a huge blow not only for him, but for them as well. Despite their sympathy for Tara, they sided with Jackson. They were still in contact with Tara, but they made it clear that they would not be her spies. She broke her vows to God and their families, trading everything for nothing. Sheila and Beverly knew how postpartum depression affects a woman's psyche, decisions, and behavior, so they sympathized with Tara. But they couldn't understand how she could alienate Jackson and her family when they tried to help. She still walked into their pastry shop, and the three women were drinking coffee and talking. They didn't hate Tara. They saw that she had made progress in the almost year and a half since the divorce. They knew that Tara wanted Jackson back. To be honest, Sheila and Beverly wanted them to get back together too. A little jealous of their previous marriage, they came up with plans to bring them together. They watched Jackson after the divorce, seeing that he was unhappy. He was a man who needed a relationship. Beneath the surface of his friendliness and honesty was a ticking time bomb. They saw him lose his temper at work several times, something that had never happened before. They knew that he had been abusing alcohol for some time and had casual relationships. He no longer had that anchor that brought him joy and satisfaction. Sheila and Beverly decided to carefully broach the subject of a new relationship for Jackson when they learned that he had started dating Sophia. They were cleaning the conference room when they heard strange noises coming from his office. Curiosity got the better of them, and they quietly opened the door. They saw Sophia making love to Jackson. Sheila and Beverly finally came to their senses at this time and, trying not to make a sound, quietly closed the door. Returning to the conference room, they began to discuss what had happened. "Oh my God, I'm surprised he's finally moved on," Beverly said. "Is that all you got out of it?" Sheila asked. "Certainly. What else was I supposed to take away from what we just saw?" Beverly answered. "Did you see the size of this?" Sheila said, starting to laugh. "For God's sake, Sheila, he is our close friend. You shouldn't look at him that way. It was right in front of us, Bev. How could I not look?" Beverly blushed from ear to ear. "Okay, he's definitely bigger than any of my previous men, but that doesn't matter. He's our friend, Sheila. We need to make sure she doesn't hurt him." "You're right, Bev. It's just, I haven't been with a man in so long that I've forgotten what it's like. Since we got divorced, I only have batteries," Sheila answered. "Me too," Beverly answered embarrassedly, after which they both laughed. They went back to cleaning the conference room. A month later, they already knew everything they could about Sophia. They carefully ferreted out information by bribing employees with office treats. It turned out that Jackson and Sophia signed a legal document removing the clause prohibiting sexual relations between employees, as revealed by the secretary of the corporate lawyer. The company employees knew that they had been together for about a month, and everyone supported their relationship, wishing Jackson happiness. Sophia was generally loved. She was friendly but strict about deadlines and punctuality. All financial issues of the company went through her. Before retiring, her predecessor, Denise, gave Sophia her full approval and guidance. Sheila and Beverly decided there was nothing to worry about. Sheila and Beverly were almost finished cleaning the conference room when Sophia entered. She didn't notice them and sat down on a chair, covering her face with her hands and crying loudly. They were surprised by her unexpected appearance. A few moments later, Beverly walked toward her, followed by Sheila. "What happened, honey?" Beverly asked. Sophia winced, realizing that she was not alone. She looked at Beverly and Sheila, who were approaching her. "Nothing, everything is fine," Sophia answered, wiping her eyes. "Tears don't just fall, darling," Beverly said, sitting down next to her. Sheila walked around Sophia and sat down on the chair on the other side. "Everything is fine. I just need a little time," Sophia said. Her lips trembled, which Beverly immediately noticed. She gently patted Sophia's hand. "Whatever it is, we old birds have probably been through it," Beverly said softly. Sophia was silent, but felt the desire to speak out growing in her chest. She saw genuine concern in Beverly and Sheila's eyes. Sheila stood up, walked to the door leading to Jackson's office, opened it, and looked inside. "Jackson is gone. Let's talk here," Sheila said. "The shift meeting will begin soon in the conference room." Beverly stood up, and Sophia unconsciously followed her. All three walked into Jackson's office. Sophia sat down on the edge of the couch, her thoughts going back to making love to Jackson here just a few hours ago. Beverly sat next to Sophia, folding her hands in her lap. Sheila pulled a chair over to the coffee table, sat down opposite her, and crossed her legs. She turned on the lamp on Jackson's desk and shone the light in their direction. Sophia felt their gazes fixed on her. She mechanically fiddled with her hands, feeling tears welling up in the corners of her eyes again. Beverly began to gently stroke her back. "What happened, Sophia? We can help," Beverly said. Sophia looked at her and Sheila. She noticed that Sheila was looking around, as if looking for something in the office. Beverly looked at her with sincere compassion, which calmed Sophia a little. Plucking up her courage, she took a deep breath. "I had to break up with the one I love, and the worst thing is that I really fell in love with him," she said quickly. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry," Beverly responded, genuinely sympathetic. Sophia smiled slightly through her tears, but saw that Sheila leaned forward, looking intently around the office. "If you love him, why did you break up?" Beverly asked. Her heart sank inside her. She understood that we were talking about Jackson and imagined how bad he was now. She decided that she and Sheila would contact him later, but right now it was more important to support Sophia. I don't think you'll understand, Sophia replied, reaching for the napkins on the coffee table. Try to explain, honey. Perhaps it will make you feel better if you speak out, Beverly suggested. My family adheres to very strict traditions. They will never accept a man who does not profess Catholic values and is not Mexican. If I choose the wrong person, I will simply be rejected, Sophia said with difficulty. This is terrible, Sophia. I'm so sorry, Beverly said. Sophia leaned her head on her shoulder, feeling a little calmer. I know that if I stay with him and my family rejects me, I will be happy for a while. But then I'll start to miss them. I want my parents to walk me down the aisle when I get married. I want my husband to give me 13 gold coins. I want silk wedding lasso and to dance at the wedding snake dance. This probably sounds strange to you, but I know that if my family is not at my wedding, I will be unhappy for the rest of my life, she said, barely holding back her sobs. Beverly silently stroked her head, listening to the outpouring of her soul. She could understand Sophia, even if she did not know all the intricacies of Mexican traditions. She also believed that family was very important and understood how painful it would be to lose her support at the most important moment in her life. When Sophia calmed down, Sheila suddenly stood up. Jackson is gone, she said. Yes, he went home, Beverly confirmed. No, I mean he's gone. Look around, Sheila said with concern in her voice. Sophia raised her head and Beverly began to look around. Sheila took out her phone, put it on speaker, and dialed Jackson's number. The beep sounded not only in the phone speaker, but also muffled somewhere in the office. All three turned to his table. Sheila walked to the middle drawer, opened it, and took out Jackson's phone. Maybe he just forgot it, Beverly suggested. Sheila walked over to the mini fridge, leaned over, and pulled out the power cord. It was unplugged. She then walked over to the computer, checked the power cord, and pointed to a shelf of books against the wall. Beverly frowned until Sophia gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. What usually stood there? Beverly asked. A photo with his grandfather at his boot camp graduation. He always held it at eye level so he could see it when he raised his head, Sophia whispered. She's gone, Sheila said with a hint of anger. Sophia leaned back on the couch and started crying again. Her arms fell limply and Beverly hugged her again. You will find out what happened between them. I'll go to his house, maybe I'll catch him, Sheila said, resolutely leaving the office. Beverly was left to console Sophia, who could only whisper, I'm sorry. A few minutes later, Jackson's phone, which Sheila had left on the table, rang. Beverly looked at the screen. Joseph was calling. Hello, Joseph, she answered. Beverly, why are you answering from Jackson's phone? He accidentally left it in the office, she lied. What are you doing in his office? I'm cleaning up. If Sheila and I don't do this, there will never be an order there, she answered dryly. It's clear. By the way, he sent me a message that he was leaving and would not be back anytime soon. Beverly felt Sophia get up from the couch and run out of the office. Something personal. I think he'll be back in a few days once he's sorted out his thoughts, she said. Sophia left him. That's what happened, Joseph said confidently. Did you know about them? Beverly asked in amazement. Of course I did. I know everything. I'm tired of not being appreciated and respected, he snapped. Beverly couldn't stand it. Between Jackson and Sophia's worries and Joseph's now childish complaints, she snapped. Joseph, respect is earned, not begged for, she answered sharply and hung up. Beverly held Jackson's phone in her hands and left the office. Along the way, she asked the employees if they had seen Sophia. One of the workers said she cried and ran towards her office. Beverly quickened her pace. When Beverly got to Sophia's office, she had already left. Beverly took the phone from the holder on her belt and called Sheila. Jackson left, Sheila said. His SUV is not there, but at the reception they said that he left with a sports bag and a briefcase. He left the envelope and asked to give it to Sasha when she comes on Monday. I think he didn't go to Aspen for a week like last time, Beverly answered. You're right. It looks like this time he decided to leave for a long time, Sheila agreed. Go back to the office. Joseph is almost here. He said he would be calling customers to warn them about delays and updates, Beverly said, sighing heavily. Fine. You and I will have to keep morale up here. God knows Joseph is not capable of this. Listen, Beverly, we have our own business. Jackson took his briefcase with him. This means that he will work, just not in the office. Joseph will either have to swim or drown here. We wouldn't have our bakery if Jackson hadn't taken a chance and given us money. He was our friend from the moment we met. We owe it to him to help Joseph maintain morale here. You're right, Bev. Okay, sit in Joseph's office and wait for him. Be sure to open the blinds and keep things light until I arrive. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Everything will be fine. We can work with Joseph until Jackson returns. Joseph isn't completely stupid. He knows how to talk to clients and put them at ease. We've seen him do it many times. Fine. See you in a little bit, Beverly answered and hung up. She stood and looked around. People laughed and worked. She looked at the conference room and saw the same thing. They laughed and worked together to make sure everything went smoothly. Beverly took a deep breath and exhaled. She smiled for everyone to see and started to walk towards the stairs when suddenly her phone beeped. She glanced at it, a message from an unknown number sent to a group that included her, Sheila, Joseph, Tara, and Sophia. Beverly sat down on the second step, held her breath, and opened the message. It read, "Over the past 2 years, I have been betrayed and divorced. I fell in love with another woman, but she left me because of the color of my skin. I can't stand it anymore. I'm leaving and don't know when I'll be back. I can update our security system remotely from anywhere in the world using my laptop, so our product won't suffer in my absence. Do not try to look for me. I will return when I see fit. Farewell." Joseph's office. Joseph sat in his office with the blinds closed. "It's been so long since we've seen each other, brother," Joseph exclaimed enthusiastically. "I'm fine. Those 3 months away from everyone really helped me. I should have done this a long time ago," Jackson replied. "Are you seriously on a boat?" Joseph asked. "Yes. I bought myself a used Ranger Tug R43S. Did you buy a used boat?" "Calm down. She's only 2 years old. The previous owner died of a heart attack, and the widow did not want to keep her." "Well, how much did you pay for it?" Joseph asked. "Are you my mother or what?" Jackson answered with a laugh. Joseph laughed too. "I'm just curious. We have a lot to discuss." "This is true. If you want to know, I only paid $400,000 for it." $400,000. Calm down. It is fully equipped, including galley appliances, electronics, fishing rods, you name it, even engine fluids. The widow just wanted to get rid of it, so she took about half of its value. I can't wait to see her, brother. "Certainly. Listen, Joseph. I need Steve to fly out at 5 a.m. tomorrow to pick me up from Morristown Municipal Airport in New Jersey. I want to leave there no later than 7:30 in the morning." "This is great, buddy. We look forward to your return." "Me too, Joe. I can't wait to see and talk to everyone." "Where are you staying now?" Joseph asked. "I stayed at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Morristown." "Wait, what happened to your Blazer? I thought you were going home on it." "She finally went to the next world, to the great car graveyard in heaven." "Wow, well, she lived a long and glorious life, brother." "Yes, I lived. 27 years and 3 generations of the Brown family." "Does this mean that you will now take your place in high society and buy yourself a luxury car?" "The hell with it. I already have an appointment with Lee tomorrow morning to pick out a new car." "Listen, I have a meeting in 10 minutes. I can't wait for tomorrow." "Me too. Take care." Jackson hung up. Joseph stood up and walked out into the corridor. He saw Sheila and Beverly talking to Sophia and her mother. Sophia's mother had come to the office every day since she first showed up here a week after Jackson left. She came and asked about Jackson. When she was told that he was not there, she replied that she would wait. On the third day, Ashley called Joseph's office to report a suspicious elderly woman. Joseph went out to talk to her and find out why she had come. She only said that it was a private matter and began speaking in Spanish so fast that she seemed not to be breathing. Then he asked Ashley to call Sophia to translate. When Sophia walked into the reception area, she was shocked to see her mother. They started speaking in English and then switched to Spanish, which infuriated Joseph. He eventually told Sophia to get her mother, or he would call the police. She left, but the next day she started bringing Sophia lunches every day. Over time, she developed friendships with Sheila and Beverly, and also brought succulent sopapillas every morning. While talking to Beverly, Joseph learned that Sophia's mother wanted to wait for a chance to talk to Jackson. Joseph stood at the top of the stairs and called out, "Sheila, Beverly, I need to see you in my office." They said goodbye to Sophia and her mother, walked up the stairs, and entered Joseph's office. As Beverly closed the door, Sheila asked, "What happened, Joe?" He waited until they were sitting on the sofa and only then spoke. "I just talked to Jackson. He's coming back tomorrow." Beverly screamed joyfully and began clapping her hands. Sheila simply smiled and took a deep breath. "Great. I need my friend and we need our leader," Sheila said. "He can still get rid of Sophia's mother," Joseph added. "What's wrong with her?" Beverly asked. "She's fine, but she doesn't work here," Joseph replied. "Why didn't you kick her out then?" Beverly was surprised. "Because these Sachapillas are simply divine." "Well, at least this time you're not thinking of your friend," Sheila quipped. Sheila and Beverly laughed and Joseph just looked at them. "The other thing I'm looking forward to is for you chickens to stop hanging around his office all the time." "Where is he now, Joe?" Sheila asked. "He's in Morristown, New Jersey. His blazer is completely broken, so he sends Steve to pick it up." "How will he get to the airport?" Beverly asked. "He's staying at the Hyatt Regency downtown, so he'll take a taxi in the morning." "Will you meet him at the airport when he arrives here?" Sheila asked. "He said he had an appointment with Lee tomorrow morning at the car dealership, so I guess Lee would pick him up and take him there so he could test drive some cars." "Okay, then. After that, he can come here and deal with Sophia," Beverly said. "Why should he do this?" Joseph was surprised. "Because her mother is here to tell him that he has his family's blessing for his relationship with Sophia," Beverly replied. "I already told you, Bev, that would be a terrible idea. He should give Tara another chance," Sheila said. "Wait, do you both really disagree on this issue?" Joseph asked in surprise, raising his eyebrows. "We are not the same person, Joseph," Beverly replied. "She thinks being with Sophia is more romantic. You know, this move with overcoming cultural differences," Sheila explained to Joseph. "And she thinks that reconciling with Tara will prove that true love can overcome anything," Beverly retorted. Joseph smiled. In all the years of acquaintance, he had never seen them disagree on anything. "I have to say, it's a refreshing change," he said. "It's not like he's going to choose one of us. We just want our friend to be happy," Sheila added. "Although it would be great if he chose one of us," Beverly giggled, looking at Sheila. "Why not?" Joseph asked, looking at both of them. "For God's sake, Joseph, we're both 60 years old," Sheila replied. "He still needs a baby," Beverly added. "So what? You can find a surrogate mother. It's not that big of a deal," Joseph said. "I wouldn't mind if he gave me some attention," Beverly giggled. "Honey, you would have died of a heart attack before he finished," Sheila jokes, laughing. "But I would die happy," Beverly laughed in response. "If you really need to clean the pipes, I'm always ready to help," Joseph said, smiling. Sheila and Beverly looked at each other and burst into hysterical laughter. At that moment, Joseph's phone rang. He answered, looking at the laughing women. His face changed as he spoke on the phone. Sheila and Beverly noticed that something was wrong. They heard him asking questions like, "What time?" "Who?" and "How much?" After a few minutes, he hung up and sat back in his chair, placing his hands on his head. "Well, what happened, Joe?" Sheila asked. Joseph took a deep breath before answering. "It was my man from the airport. Steve has already flown out to pick up Jackson. So what? What's the problem? Beverly asked. He didn't fly out alone. Our entire legal department is flying with him. I don't understand what this means, Joe, Sheila answered. Well, Sheila, Jackson bought a boat when he left. He's been at sea for the last 3 months. And what difference does it make? Beverly asked. Joseph chuckled before answering. Jackson always said that one day he would sell everything and spend the rest of his days on a boat. But you own half the company. Can't you find investors and buy out his share? Beverly asked. I only own 35% of the company. It can't be. Jackson would never do that to you, Sheila objected. I sold 15% of my share to other investors. Why did you do that, Joe? Beverly was surprised. To get shares in other companies. You should never put all your eggs in one basket. Jackson doesn't keep all his money in our business either. He has shares of Amazon, Tesla, Vanguard, gold, silver, you name it, Sheila added. Let's not rush to conclusions. We don't know why he took the legal department with him. Just calm down. Jackson will tell us everything when he sees fit, Beverly said. Joseph's phone rang again. This time it was a call from the reception line. He pressed the speakerphone button. What's wrong, Ashley? Miss Christina Caldwell is here. She said she was Jackson's divorce lawyer. That's how it is. Okay, let her pass, Joseph replied and hung up. This will be interesting, Sheila said, standing up. Beverly and Joseph also stood up, and the three of them walked out into the hallway and stopped at the stairs. A few seconds later, Christina appeared in the open area of the office. Is this his divorce lawyer? Beverly asked. Yes, it's her, Miss Christina Caldwell, the best divorce lawyer in the state. Christina was a young woman of 31 years old, distinguished by her sophisticated appearance and strong character. Her height was 160 centimeters, and her figure, proportional and slightly rounded, radiated natural harmony and femininity. Weighing in at around 63 kilograms, Christina looked healthy and fit, which she maintained with her love of yoga and the outdoors. Her thick, black hair, shining with a soft shine, usually curled in soft curls, but for formal events and important meetings, she always straightened it carefully, which added severity and elegance to her image. Her green eyes, sparkling with subtle brilliance and liveliness, gave her a special magic. They seemed to be able to speak for themselves, expressing her intelligence, confidence, and slight mystery. This look often made interlocutors feel that Christina was able to see the essence of things. Her facial features, refined and neat, were reminiscent of the famous singer and actress Jessica Lone's, the same expressive beauty intertwined with a subtle hint of vulnerability. Christina was not only attractive in appearance, but also incredibly smart and purposeful. She graduated magna cum laude from Indiana University School of Law, the result of her years of hard work and perseverance. This achievement certainly set her apart in the professional world. At the university, she was respected for her hard work and commitment to excellence, and teachers noted her ability to think analytically and deeply understand complex legal issues. She always pursued her goals with confidence, but at the same time with dignity and respect for others. Her character combined professionalism and care for loved ones, which made her an excellent friend and reliable work partner. She's certainly very beautiful, Beverly remarked. Christina smiled and waved at them, and then began to walk up the stairs. She's pregnant, Sheila said suddenly. What? How did you understand this? Joseph was surprised. She already has a slight belly visible, and she has that glowing look, Sheila replied. When Christina came upstairs, she greeted Joseph by shaking his hand. Long time no see, Joseph. How are you doing? Everything is fine, thank you. How are you, Christina? I'm doing well, too. Thanks for asking. Then she turned to Sheila and Beverly. You must be Sheila and Beverly. Jack spoke very warmly of you, she said, holding out her hand. Beverly shook her hand first, introducing herself. Then Sheila did the same. How far along are you, Christina? Sheila asked. Christina froze slightly, looking appraisingly at Sheila. 8 weeks. How did you know this? You already have a little belly and you're just glowing with happiness. Uo, how many times have you given birth? Beverly asked. This is my third pregnancy. I didn't know you had children, Joseph remarked. There are none. I was a surrogate mother for my sister. This is her third and last child. Last chance for a girl. Oh, I see, Joseph replied. Silence hung in the air before Joseph broke it. Did you want to talk to me, Christina? Actually, I'm here to prepare Jack's office for his return. Christina noticed that Sheila was carefully studying her with her eyes. Is there a problem, Sheila? You called him Jack twice, Sheila replied. Joseph laughed and Beverly gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Christina and Sheila continued to look at each other. Let's go into the office. I have things to do, said Christina, passing by. Joseph, Sheila, and Beverly looked at each other and, perplexed, followed Christina into Jackson's office. When they walked in, they saw Christina had just plugged in the mini fridge. She then walked over to the wall and turned on Jackson's computer. After that, she walked around the table and sat down in his chair. Could you please explain what you are doing here, Miss Caldwell? Joseph asked. Christina looked up at him and smiled. I'm Miss Caldwell now, Joseph. I see that you all want to understand why I'm here and why I'm preparing for his office. That's just one of many questions, Christina, Sheila noted. Christina leaned back in her chair and continued to smile. Jack said you'd be the loudest one. So why are you here? Sheila asked. I'm here because he asked me to prepare his office for his return, Christina replied. How long have you been sleeping with him? Joseph asked unexpectedly. The last month, Christina answered bluntly. At that moment, Sophia entered the office with a folder in her hands. Joseph, I have data from the past. She began, but froze when she saw Christina at Jackson's desk. She looked at Joseph and Beverly, then at Sheila, who kept her gaze on Christina. The stranger, however, was looking straight at her. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sophia fell silent, and then tried to introduce herself. Hello, You are Sofia Hernandez. I've heard a lot about you, Christina interrupted her. Well, you have an advantage because I don't know who you are, Sophia replied. I'm Christina Caldwell. I was Jackson's divorce lawyer. Oh, I see. Nice to meet you, Christina. She's also sleeping with Jackson, Beverly added. Silence. Everyone looked at Sophia, who kept looking from Christina to the others. There was tension in the air. Christina stood up from the table and leaned her elbows on its edge. This is not how I imagined this meeting, Christina admitted, folding her hands in front of her. Are you sleeping with Jackson? Sophia asked a question. Her voice trembled. Yes, Sophia. Beverly walked over and took Sophia's hand. Everyone continued to look at Sophia as her eyes filled with tears and her lower lip trembled. But I love him, Sophia whispered as tears streamed down her face. Christina felt regret. She saw how much Sophia loved Jackson and understood why. I know you love him, honey, but you already had your chance. You yourself decided that the color of his skin and the fact that he is not a Catholic are insurmountable for you, Christina said softly. Sophia made a strange sound, a mixture of a moaning sob and a sobbing cry. Luckily, Beverly was there to support her. Joseph burst out laughing, and Sheila glared at Christina. That was damn rude, Christina, Sheila remarked. The truth is never harsh. She is simply unpleasant to those who refuse to accept her, Christina answered. He's mine. I found him first, Sophia said loudly. No, Tara found him first, and he found you in his hotel room when you tried on his clothes and took pictures of yourself in them. You would be nothing if Jackson didn't give you a chance, Christina replied sharply. Joseph, Sheila, and Beverly looked at Sophia in surprise. She gasped and ran out of the room, sobbing quietly. If I wasn't a God-fearing Christian, I would punch you in the nose, Beverly yelled at Christina before following Sophia. Christina's phone rang. She looked at the screen and turned on the speakerphone. Did you hear everything, Jack? She asked. Yes, I saw and heard everything. Jackson's voice rang out. What the hell is going on here? Joseph exclaimed. Christina glanced at Joseph, but answered into the phone. Sophia clearly has a thing for you, but I wouldn't rule out white knight syndrome. You must be joking. She slept with Joseph before she even got attached to me. How do you explain this, Miss Know-it-all? Sheila quipped, coming closer to Christina. Which of you didn't sleep with Joseph? Christina grinned. Hey, Joseph was indignant. Jackson's laughter came through the phone. I didn't sleep, Sheila said. Well, bravo, darling. Stay away from him. This will only lead to disappointment, Christina answered with a slight grin. Jackson laughed again on the phone. Why is everyone suddenly attacking me? Joseph was indignant. I don't have time for this. I need to take care of business, Christina said, walking around the table and sitting back in Jackson's chair. Sheila, Joseph, please leave my office so Christina can work. Jackson's voice came over the phone. Sheila and Joseph looked at each other and then looked at Christina. They didn't know what to think, but they obeyed and left the office, closing the door behind them. Walking down the corridor to Joseph's office, they sat down in silence, and only when they were settled in their chairs did Sheila speak. I don't like her. It takes some getting used to, Joseph admitted. This is ridiculous. He should go back to Tara, Sheila said. Why on earth would he do this? She betrayed him, Joseph recalled. Everyone makes mistakes, Joseph. The pregnancy loss and depression could have completely affected her mental state. This is a medical fact. He did everything to help her, Sheila. He offered her therapy and got her family involved to support her. She refused help and turned away from him. He had every right to be angry and even get a divorce. But she learned from her mistakes and became a better person. Oaths speak of fidelity, Joseph. Where in those vows does it say that cheating with another man is okay, Sheila? There's no need to be rude, Joseph. It's not rude, Sheila. This is true. No need to cover up or soften. She betrayed him. That's a fact. It's not that simple, Joseph. Depression does affect the ability to think clearly. Stop looking for excuses for her bad actions. She made her choice, and now she has to live with it. The same goes for Sophia. She chose her path, and let her be responsible for it. Joseph had just finished speaking when Beverly entered the office. Sophia went home with her mother. It's great that she at least reported this to her boss, Joseph quipped. We have a serious problem here, Joseph, Beverly said, sitting down. No, not like that. Jackson is a grown man capable of making his own decisions. I know you care about him, but it's better for both of you not to interfere, Joseph said. We're not going to sit back and let him make a huge mistake, Beverly countered. Sheila wanted to say something, but Joseph interrupted her. I understand everything. You are for Tara, and you are for Sophia, and I am for him to choose whoever he wants, and that will suit me. This is funny, Joseph. I know that you also want him to choose someone. Who is this? Beverly asked. Yes, there is no one else here. Just the two of us, be honest, Sheila added. If you're honest about who you support, I promise I won't tease you anymore, Beverly said. I can't promise that, but I will do it less, Sheila added. Joseph looked at both women. He found it amusing to see them argue, but he also understood how important they were to Jackson and company. He took a deep breath and said, Cold. He fell silent for a few seconds while they waited for his answer. I'm for Tara, he finally said. What? Beverly exclaimed. Yes, Sheila shouted, raising her hands up. You always said how much Tara broke his heart and how she didn't deserve it. How can you be on her side? Beverly asked indignantly. Joseph opened his desk drawer and pulled out a black folder. He placed it on the coffee table in front of Sheila and Beverly. Then he sat down in a chair next to the sofa on which they were sitting. Both women looked at the folder as if it were contagious. What is this, and how many pages are there? Sheila asked carefully. This is a summary of Tara's life after her divorce, Joseph replied. Sheila and Beverly were stunned. They were silent, not knowing what to say, trying to digest what they heard. She has a clean medical report. She goes to work and then returns home. Sometimes he has dinner with his sister and aunt. She had 3 dates with different men, but none of them progressed to a second. She was not intimate with anyone and became interested in making quilts, Joseph explained. So what? He has to make a decision about who he wants to go forward with, Sheila said. At that moment, they heard someone clear their throat. All three turned to see Christina standing in the doorway. You have to knock for this. Try it sometime, Beverly remarked sharply. Listen, Beverly, I'm sorry that our acquaintance started off on the wrong foot. This was not my intention. Jack spoke of you and Sheila with great respect, Christina said, walking into the room and sitting in the chair opposite Joseph. Besides sleeping with him, how close have you gotten to know him? Sheila asked directly. Well, I handled his divorce and saw how much he suffered. We kept in touch after that, sometimes having lunch when he was in town, and I spent the last month with him on his boat. So I know him pretty well, Christina replied, looking around at all three of them. Well, that's it, Joseph said with a laugh. Christina sighed and continued. Listen, Jack and I both know it was just a fling, and while I enjoyed every moment of it, we both know we're not right for each other. You don't have to worry about me. We're just good friends. Well, in that case, Joseph began, but Christina interrupted him. The answer is no. I didn't mean to ask you out, Joseph quickly countered. Then who do you think Jackson should choose, Christina? Sheila asked. Christina took a deep breath before answering. I believe that no matter who he chooses, conditions must be set. Both have already broken his heart once. That doesn't answer the question, Beverly said. I can't say who I think he should choose, Christina said as she stood up. Why not, Christina? Joseph asked. See you tomorrow, Christina replied. Oh no, if you really care about Jackson, then you have an opinion. So who do you think he should choose? Beverly insisted. Finally, Christina answered. I can't say who I think he should choose because he's already made his decision. Christina walked out the door as Joseph, Sheila, and Beverly looked at each other in silence. Jackson sat in the cockpit talking to Steve as he piloted the private jet back to the airport. The company's legal team was in the salon, enjoying breakfast and preparing to sleep at home. Initially, Jackson wanted to wait to start everything, but changed his mind. Steve and the team responded immediately by flying to him. They worked long into the night, drawing up a general plan of what was to be done. Jackson always wondered what all these instruments and sensors were for. Steve willingly explained everything to him. He liked Jackson. He visited his house when he was married to Tara and invited him to a barbecue at his place. Jackson paid generous bonuses and took time to get to know him and his family. Jackson was looking out the window when he heard Steve's question, which he knew was on everyone's mind. Who will you choose, Jackson? He asked, looking at him. Jackson looked at Steve and smiled. How do you know that I haven't made a decision yet? So did you accept? Yes, I accepted. So who is this? Jackson chuckled. Do you think I should tell her first before telling everyone else? It's just you, me, and a flock of geese outside the window. Nobody will know anything. Who are you for, Steve? Asked Jackson. Steve looked at Jackson. He knew what he was thinking about. You know I won't fire you for your opinion. Steve took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I'm for Team Tara. I think you should go back to her. Why? Asked Jackson. Because you both love each other. What she did was terrible. I don't even want to imagine what you went through. You lost your child and your wife. I don't condone her actions. But I can say that not only did she get the help she needed then, but she also became a better person. She understands what she did was wrong and will never find herself in that situation again. She'll spend the rest of her life trying to atone for her guilt, and you know it. I think you are made for each other. That's it. You've been thinking about this for a long time, haven't you, Steve? Yes, a long time ago. But you asked yourself. Steve grinned. It's okay, Steve. I told you I won't fire you for your opinion. Jackson answered. Thank you. We'll land in half an hour. In the office. Beverly and Sheila had been hanging decorations in the building since 6 in the morning. Ribbons, balloons, a welcome sign, His favorite cupcakes were baking in the oven in the kitchen. The staff's morale lifted noticeably as soon as it became known that Jackson was returning. Beverly and Sheila bribed Lee, a car salesman, to report as soon as Jackson landed, and arranged for daytime security guard Frank to report when Jackson showed up in the parking lot. At the airport, Lee watched as the plane's door lowered. He had never been to a private hangar and was surprised at its size. Lee had known Jackson for a long time, so he had conflicting feelings when he asked him to meet him at the airport and bring him a suitable pickup truck. When Jackson walked down the ramp, Lee grinned when he saw that he hadn't changed. Still the same boots, jeans, flannel shirt, and hat. Jackson looked at Lee, smiled, and waved. Lee noticed that Jackson stopped at the foot of the ramp, as if he was waiting for someone. The pilot looked out the door and spoke to Jackson. Lee decided not to interfere and stopped so as not to interfere. "Whoever you choose, she will be a happy woman, and I will support your choice," said the pilot. Lee saw them shake hands and understood what they were talking about. When Jackson looked at Lee again and walked towards him, Lee moved towards him. "I swear to God, if you brought me a Ford, I won't spend another penny from you," Jackson joked. "Come on, you know I'm smarter than to take that risk," Lee replied, shaking his hand. "So what did you bring me, Lee?" Jackson asked as they walked towards the hangar doors. "I brought you a 2022 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 LT with all-wheel drive." "Why not 2023? Honestly, she won't suit you. There are too many bells and whistles in the cabin in 2023. Even for me, it's too much, not to mention you. I also heard that you bought yourself a boat. This truck is great for towing, and it has 5 stars in all crash tests, so if you decide to test it out, you'll be fine," Lee added with a laugh. Jackson looked at him and replied, "Okay then, let's see how she rides." They exited through the side door of the hangar. "Well, of course, I even brought a silver one," Jackson said. "Certainly. You don't expect me to bring you a pickup truck painted yellow and blue?" Lee answered with a smile. "You, of course, are a sales master, Lee. You can't argue with that," Jackson smiled. They walked around the truck, examining it from all sides. Jackson checked the tires, assessed the brake ventilation system, and the strength of the body. As they approached the hood, Lee leaned against the passenger side and spoke. "Jackson, can I take off my salesman hat for a minute and put on my friend's hat?" "Sure. What's on your mind, Lee?" "I heard what you said to the pilot. I don't know all the details of your situation. You know, I treat Tara well, but once the road has been passed, it's not worth returning to it. She's not the same as she used to be, Lee." "I know, Jackson. Linda and I had lunch with her several times after your divorce. I even sold her a Traverse last year." "Is it true? Traverse?" "Well, at least not another Malibu," Jackson chuckled. Lee laughed too and continued. "I just want to say that no matter how much regret and love there is, sometimes it is better to leave the past in the past and move on. I went through this myself." "Okay, Lee, put your salesman hat back on." "Let's go for a ride and see how she rides," Jackson replied. In the office, Joseph entered the building a little after 8:30. "Good morning, Ashley," he said as he walked past the reception desk. "Good morning, Joseph. You need to call Mrs. Stella Shipley urgently. She's already called twice this morning." "Is it true? Thank you, Ashley." Joseph walked into the main hall and noticed decorations hanging everywhere. On the balcony, he saw Beverly and Sheila talking using the phone on speakerphone. "Hey, what are these white balls? Are we having a wedding here?" he joked, heading towards the stairs. Beverly and Sheila turned off the phone and walked towards him. "Jackson just left Lee. He bought a truck," Beverly said. "Great. It's a pity, of course, that it's not a Mercedes, so it could be at my level, but the pickup truck is also not bad," Joseph chuckled. He told Lee that he needed to meet someone, and then he would come into the office, Sheila added. Jackson walked up to the familiar door and rang the bell. A few minutes later, Patricia opened the door for him. "Oh my God, Jackson, how are you?" she exclaimed, hugging him. "Fine. How are you and Bill?" he asked. "We're fine too. Come in," Jackson went into the kitchen, where he poured himself some coffee while Patricia went to get Bill. When the garage door opened, Bill entered the room. "Well, you have to," he said when he saw Jackson. Jackson hugged him, and then they sat down at the table. "How are you, Jackson?" Bill asked. "I'm fine. Just returned to the city after 3 months away." 3 months? Where have you been?" Jackson told Bill and Patricia about Sophia and how it ended. He talked about how his old Blazer finally broke down, how he bought a new truck this morning, and about the boat he took along the East Coast, across the Gulf of Mexico, and to several places in Mexico. "I can't believe you bought a boat," Patricia said. "Which one exactly?" Bill asked. "Ranger Tug R43S. There are 2 cabins there, so I would like to invite you both to join me next year. We can go fishing, catch lobster and crab, and just get away from it all and enjoy the fresh sea air." "It's our pleasure, thank you, Jackson," Patricia smiled. They told Jackson about their vacation, discussed family, and what everyone was doing. But it was Patricia who mentioned Tara. Tara has been offered a big promotion and may be moving to. Her speech was interrupted by Bill clearing his throat. "Oh, sorry, Jackson. I didn't want to." "It's okay, guys. You can talk about Tara. I'm glad to hear she was offered a promotion. She's always been good at her job," Jackson said, looking at both of them. "We just don't want you to think we're trying to push you into something," Bill replied. "I understand, and I don't think you're trying. So what is this promotion, and where is she being invited?" Bill and Patricia looked at each other. "She was offered a position as vice president of the Kansas City branch," Patricia said. "Wow, this is an amazing opportunity. Must be a good salary if she's even considering moving to Tornado Alley," Jackson laughed. "Well, 400,000 a year plus a car and an expense account will make you reconsider a lot of things," Bill replied, taking a sip of coffee. "It's an impressive package. I'm happy for her," Jackson said with a smile. He was truly sincerely happy for Tara. Jackson long ago forgave her for cheating. He was happy that she finally got the help she needed after losing them. "If you just returned today, don't you need to go to the office?" "We need to make sure that Joseph doesn't burn it," said Patricia. Jackson glanced at his watch. "There is already someone there who is preparing everything for my return. Beverly and Sheila won't let him ruin everything, so I'm not worried. But I wanted to stop by to invite you on the boat." In the office, Joseph was on the phone with Mrs. Stella Shipley. "My divorce will become official in 90 days, she said. "Congratulations, Stella. What are your plans now that you are a free woman? I think it's time to stop hiding our relationship. Are you sure this is a good idea? People will start discussing. Those who matter know the truth, Joseph. The rest can say whatever they want. I just don't think now is the right time." At that moment, Beverly and Sheila entered Joseph's office. He sat back in his chair with his back to the door and did not hear them enter. Beverly and Sheila exchanged smiles. Beverly walked over to the desk and pressed the speakerphone button. "Hi, Stella. How are you?" Beverly said. Joseph turned around in his chair, phone still to his ear. "Hi, Bev. Everything is fine. And you?" Stella answered. "Can't you see I'm talking?" Joseph was indignant. "It doesn't bother us," Beverly smiled. Beverly and Joseph looked at Sheila, who was staring motionlessly towards the door, with slight displeasure on her face. When they turned in the same direction, they saw Christina standing on the threshold, leaning on the door frame. "I'll call you back," Joseph said and hung up. "You must accept the changes in yourself, Joseph. There is nothing wrong with loving one woman and staying with her," Christina said. "How do you know so much about us all?" Beverly asked. "I already said. Jackson and I are very close friends. Besides, it was I who forced her almost ex-husband to sign the divorce papers," Christina answered. "So should I also thank you for this?" Joseph asked sharply. "You started dating Stella a few months after she found out her husband was a cheater. You have done nothing wrong, and you have nothing to be ashamed of, except that you cannot be a man willing to take risks." "Well, screw me. You said something that I finally agree with," Sheila interjected. "Hey, it's not easy. Not for me, not for anyone. Joseph tried to justify himself. You're right, it's not easy, Christina agreed, moving closer to his table. Joseph stood up as she approached. You have absolutely nothing to lose, Joseph. Use these 90 days as a trial period. If it doesn't work out, no one can say anything bad, Christina said, sitting on the edge of his table. She's right, Joseph, Beverly said. Can you assholes stop sticking your beaks into my personal life? Christina, you can go to Jackson's office and do what he asked you to do, and I'll ask the others to leave me alone. That's it, leave. I have a few more calls to make, Joseph said, pointing to the door. Jackson entered the hall. The receptionist offered to help, but he politely declined, saying that he knew where he was going. As he rode the elevator to the top floor, he wondered if he was doing the right thing. He was proud of Tara. She took responsibility for her actions, got the help she needed, and became a better person. When the elevator doors opened, he heard a beep and stepped out into the corridor. The secretary smiled at him. Is Tara still in office C2? He asked. The secretary hesitated. Has she changed offices, Barbara? No, she answered stammeringly. Thank you. It's good to see you again, Jackson said, walking on. He walked along the corridor, looking into the open doors of the offices. The faces of the employees were unfamiliar to him. Walking past office C1, he noticed that it was empty. Finding himself in the corridor leading to Tara's office, Jackson saw a meeting room with transparent floor-to-ceiling windows. Tara stood inside, surrounded by Roger, their family lawyer, her boss, and the company's lawyers. They were discussing something so enthusiastically that Jackson managed to enter unnoticed. You'll do great in Kansas City, Tara, he said. Tara gasped, covering her mouth with her hands as her eyes widened in surprise. Roger stepped back as Jackson came closer and opened his arms. Tara smiled and hugged him. Thank you, Jackson. How did you know? Bill and Patricia told me when I stopped by this morning. I needed a fresh start, and this promotion was the push I needed, Tara replied, pulling away. I hope Roger made sure you didn't sign anything that could cause you problems in the future. Jackson asked with a smile, shaking the lawyer's hand. I made sure the contract was absolutely fair, Roger replied. Well done. Glad you stayed with Tara after the divorce. You are both wonderful people. Gotta keep you both close, Roger said, hugging Tara to congratulate her before leaving with her boss and legal team. Now only Tara and Jackson were left in the room. Well, you're all tanned, Jackson. What were you doing? She asked, sitting down opposite him in the chair. I bought a boat and spent the last few months traveling along the coast, Jackson replied. Oh my God, you finally did it. Does this mean you're going to sell the company and travel the world on your boat? Jackson chuckled. No, but I'm going to spend more time on myself. Too many meetings and constant flights are not for me. Good decision. I'm glad to hear that. You've changed, Jackson. You have become more sociable and stepped out of your comfort zone. You have always been a confident person, but now it shows even more. That's what I've already been told, he answered with a smile. I heard that you broke up with Sophia. What happened? Jackson took a deep breath and leaned back in his chair. She said she could never bring home a white man, especially one who wasn't Catholic. It's horrible. I'm sorry you got your heart broken again, Jackson. Just another failure. But I have a solution. I made a choice. Is it true? And who is it? Do I know her? Tara asked curiously. Yes, you know her. Well, I'm sure you'll make her very happy. You're a wonderful person, Jackson. You deserve it, Tara said, getting up from her seat. Jackson stood up too. He took 2 steps towards Tara and lightly kissed her on the lips. After that, they hugged. I love you, Jackson, and I'm sorry that I ruined our marriage, Tara whispered in his ear and began to cry. I love you too, Tara. I always will. You're going to make some lucky guy very happy, Jackson replied. He pulled away, looked into her eyes, and smiled. She answered him with the same smile, but with tears on her cheeks. See you, Tara, he said as he left. Tara watched Jackson leave. As he turned the corner, she sat back down in her chair. Tara felt a strange sense of satisfaction. She wished Jackson would choose her. She was a completely different person than during their marriage. Therapy with Dr. Myers helped her understand and accept her mistakes. She knew that despite his love for her, Jackson would never be able to trust her completely. Tara understood that if she were in her place, she wouldn't be able to trust either. "I love you, Jackson, and I hope you find the happiness you deserve," she whispered before returning to her office. Jackson. Jackson got into his new truck, feeling tears running down his cheeks. He wiped them with his hand, took a deep breath, and exhaled. My soul felt lighter. One important conversation was completed, but there were still several ahead. In the office, Sophia could barely concentrate this morning. Beverly told her that Jackson would be back today. She spent the previous evening choosing what to wear and settled on a traditional Tabascan dress. White blouse with bright flowers along the neckline, black ankle-length skirt with bright flowers along the hem. She wore gold hoop earrings and 2 wide gold bracelets on her wrists. Around her neck was a necklace of multicolored beads. Sophia sat at her desk, working, while her mother sat in the chair opposite her, playing Candy Crush on the tablet Sophia had given her. Ashley received a message from Jackson with instructions to escort the 2 men from the lobby to the center of the office and leave them at the entrance to the main area. She also called Joseph from his office and asked Beverly, Sheila, and Christina to leave Jackson's office. Ashley asked all 3 of them to stand on the upper level of the main hall and lean on the railing. She then took a photo with her phone and another photo of 2 men standing at the entrance to the premises. She sent these pictures to Jackson. After a few seconds, one of the men raised his head and shouted, "Hola, Christina." Joseph, Beverly, and Sheila turned to Christina to see her reaction. "Hola, Jorge," she answered with a smile and waved her hand. "Who is this anyway?" Joseph was surprised. "You'll find out soon," Christina answered. All 3 continued to watch. Ashley walked closer, holding the portable radio from Joseph's office. She pressed it to her lips and conveyed the message. "Sophia, come to the main hall. They are waiting for you here." Then she went down the stairs. Christina suddenly took out another radio and transmitted a message to Jackson. "Explain what's going on, Christina," Joseph insisted, unhappy with the situation. "Patience, Joseph," she replied, "or you will lose all chances of your trial period." "I don't like being kept in the dark," Sheila muttered to Beverly. "Humble yourself, Sheila, and just watch," Christina retorted. A moment later, Sophia appeared in the main hall with her mother following behind her. When Sophia saw 2 men standing at the entrance, she froze. "Dad," she exclaimed, covering her mouth with her hands in surprise. "Did you know it was her father?" Joseph asked, glancing at Christina. "Of course," she answered calmly. "How do you know him?" Sheila asked. "We have a mutual friend," Christina explained. "You and I have one mutual friend, Jackson. You met him through him, right?" Beverly clarified. "I guessed right," Christina answered. "Look and be silent," she added sternly, so that no one else would ask questions. Sophia slowly walked up to the man she called Dad. Her father, Jorge, began to say something in Spanish with great emphasis. Sophia tried to answer something, but looked upset, lowering her eyes to the floor. Her mother stood nearby, stroking Sophia's back soothingly. "What is he saying?" Beverly finally couldn't stand it. "He says they came to America for a better life. He wanted her to be happier and more successful than she and her mother." Sophia replies that she was always taught to marry a Catholic Mexican, to which Jorge says that it was her grandfather who insisted on this and not he or her mother, Christina explained. "That's enough, I've had enough," Joseph said, heading downstairs. But Christina grabbed his hand. "You're not the boss here, Christina, and I'm not going to put up with this anymore." Before he could finish, Mexican music started playing in the hall. Everyone turned around to see Ashley holding the phone. A few seconds later, Jackson entered the hall wearing a black charro suit with a sombrero. Sophia screamed loudly, her hands flying to her face in amazement. Her mother began to applaud, and her father and his companion smiled. People in the audience began to clap, smile and watch as Jackson put his sombrero on the floor and began to dance with Sophia around him. "I know it's a Mexican hat dance, but why?" Joseph asked. Beverly ran quickly down the stairs. "That means he chose Sophia," Sheila replied. "That's it," Joseph said, his voice softening. "Did you know about this all along?" Sheila turned to Christina. "Of course," she answered with a slight smile. They continued to watch as Jackson and Sophia circled around the hat, laughing. It's been a long road for Jackson since Tara cheated on him. It's hard to believe that this is the same person who went through a monogamous marriage, a perfect week, then Sophia, Christina, and now Sophia again, Joseph noted. "Yeah, I remember that week in Aspen and Santa Barbara," Christina chuckled. "And he told you about this?" Joseph was indignant. "I told you Jackson and I are very close," she reminded. "This is a big mistake. I think he chose the wrong woman, but I will support his decision," Sheila said and went downstairs to join the others. Joseph and Christina watched as Sheila stood next to Beverly downstairs, among the other employees who smiled and clapped. "He already has a prenuptial agreement ready in case things go wrong, doesn't he?" Joseph asked quietly, looking at Christina. "Oh, yes. And no meteor from space will penetrate it," she answered with a slight grin. A year later, Jackson and Sophia stood together at the altar, framed by the soft light of huge stained glass windows that painted their snow-white outfits in shimmers of pink, blue, and gold. There was a light aroma of flowers in the air, which decorated every corner of the spacious church hall. Sophia's silk train lay softly on the polished wooden floor, and her pearl earrings glinted slightly in the sunlight falling through the stained glass windows. Jackson looked focused and confident, his navy blue tuxedo fitted perfectly and a white rose in his buttonhole completing the look. Standing next to Jackson as best man was his best friend Joseph. Tall and handsome, he smiled discreetly, occasionally glancing at Jackson with a look of encouragement. Jackson was flanked by his friends. Christina, whose brown hair was neatly pulled back into an elegant hairstyle, and Bill, who couldn't help but smile widely, shifting subtly from foot to foot with excitement. Sophia was surrounded by her close friends. Her best friend, Juanita, stood nearby, holding a bouquet of delicate white peonies and pale pink roses that echoed the flowers in Sophia's bouquet. Juanita was calm, but in her eyes there was a touching joy for her friend. The bridesmaids, Beverly and Sheila, looked at Sophia with admiration and pride. Their pastel dresses perfectly matched each other, creating harmony with the overall palette of the celebration. In the front rows, from where the best view of what was happening, sat Patricia and Margaret. These two women, despite the years that had passed since their youth, maintained a strong friendship with Jackson, and their presence was especially meaningful to him. They exchanged good-natured smiles as they watched the ceremony. Notably absent, however, was Tara, whose name was still mentioned fondly. Although she couldn't make it, her congratulations and gift card from Bed Bath & Beyond were part of their special day. The moment when the priest solemnly proclaimed, "You may now kiss the bride," was the culmination of the ceremony. Jackson slowly turned to Sophia, his eyes seeming to sparkle with love and awe. Their kiss was elegant, but there was a deep passion in it, as if they were making not only their union, but also a promise to be everything to each other. Applause rang out as a resounding response to the moment, and the smiles of the guests grew even wider. When Jackson and Sophia turned to the guests, they were greeted by a real flurry of emotions, applause, cheers, tears of joy. The couple's gazes met, and smiles appeared on their faces. It was not just the joy of shared happiness, but also the quiet confidence that came from their common secret, which none of those present knew about. Sophia was 3 months pregnant. This thought warmed them from the inside, adding a special, intimate depth to their happiness. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.